For thousands of years, the northern Indian plains were the undisputed center of South Asian power. But hundreds of miles to the east, past the reach of the great inland empires, lay a wild, watery frontier, the Ganges Delta. This satellite view shows a maze that effectively barred outside interference. These waterways allowed a distinct Chalcolithic civilization to thrive in the delta as early as the 2nd millennium BCE, developing its own trade and technology away from the influence of the northern plains. Excavations at Pandu Rajar Dibi have uncovered a society perfectly adapted to this environment. Archaeologists found evidence of sophisticated maritime networks, where delta traders moved goods as far as central India, Rajasthan, and even the Aegean world. Relying on rivers and the open sea meant the early people of this region developed a culture detached from the agrarian systems of the north. They were a maritime power before they were a territorial one. That cultural distance led to a deep social divide. As the Vedic Aryan civilization expanded across northern India, they encountered the Anga, Vanga, and Pundra, tribes who seemed alien to the inland way of life. Inland observers viewed these maritime societies with suspicion. Normative texts like the Manusmriti explicitly labeled the inhabitants of the delta as muchas, individuals who lived outside the recognized bounds of spiritual and social order. To enforce this exclusion, Aryan priests established geographic limits on purity. They decreed that the habitat of the black antelope marked the edge of civilization. Because the antelope did not live in the eastern deltas, the entire region was coded as an unclean wilderness. These rules required anyone who visited the eastern lands to undergo purificatory rituals upon their return. For centuries, this relegated Bengal to the absolute periphery of the South Asian world. This isolation began to shift during the epic period. By the time the Ramayana and Mahabharata were recorded, the kings of Vanga appear as military allies in the great battles of the north, signaling a new level of political involvement. The actual expansion of medieval Bengal relied on a network of minor ruling powers, decentralized local authorities who governed the strategic gaps between major empires. Local rulers used a legal mechanism called Brahmadaya to reclaim the frontier. As seen on these copper plates, land grants gave Brahmin priests title to the wilderness. These tools of expansion used the plates' permanence to bind the land to a new agrarian order. Local chieftains used these land transfers to incentivize the clearing of the jungle. By delegating authority to the grantees, they built productive economic bases on the edges of the empire without relying on central imperial funding. Brahmin grantees became economic innovators. Organizing labor to fell forests and build canals, they restructured the delta into a massive rice-producing hub. This expansion pushed into the territories of tribes like the Santals. Rather than displacement, the new agrarian order absorbed these groups. This assimilation succeeded because it was flexible. Local rulers reclassified indigenous hunters as state militia and converted forest-dwelling rangers into specialized artisans, assigning each tribe a specific role in the growing economy. This integration of local labor and resources is a clear example of historical sociological engineering. It prevented the uprisings that typically follow conquest and created a hybrid workforce that shifted the subcontinent's wealth to the east. The agrarian boom also reshaped the religious landscape. Buddhist monasteries, which generally avoided commercial and agricultural labor, began to fade. In their place, field-working Brahmins began synthesizing their beliefs with local tribal traditions. This sculpture represents that religious merger. Bengal developed a distinct form of Hinduism that integrated indigenous Saktism, the worship of local goddess figures, creating a faith that mirrored the region's hybrid social structure. To protect this new prosperity from the delta's seasonal floods, ancient rulers and farmers built a massive network of earthen dikes across the lowlands. Historian Abul Fazal noted that these physical structures gave the region its name. The original root for the land was Bung. Its rulers raised mounds of earth 10 yards wide and 10 feet high, locally called Al. When these were combined, the word Bengal arose to describe the protected land. The literal labor of moving the earth to defend the farms became the defining identity of the province. Bengal is the final product of these deliberate, decentralized changes. By physically restructuring the land and integrating its people, A once outcast frontier transformed itself into one of the most productive and resilient economic regions in the world.